Can you train your brain and reduce your pain? We're not going to make any promises, but we have made arrangements for a very, very special guest to join us on a regular basis, talking about your brain and pain and how hopefully we can get the brain working and the pain dropping. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott. Joining us is Maury. Welcome to the show, Maury.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity to share what some might call wisdom and to be of service and to help.
Well, we know that a lot of people's health problems start in the head and work their way from the mental, emotional, etheric realms into the physical realm. And that was one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on. And for everybody, Maury's agreed to come on every 2 weeks, or 2 weeks every two times a month, I guess. Sometimes there's 5 weeks in a month and it just screws everything up. But I'm really excited about that. So we're going to take it slow. We're going to explain some of the things that he does, and then we're going to talk to him specifically about pain in the brain. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We will address them in the next show. So this is not like a one-time deal, and we're really excited about having Maury on our team. So Maury, why don't you start at the beginning, like the secret origin of Mindtrainer Pro.
Yeah. So are you looking more for how I got started in all of this?
Yeah. How did you get started?
Okay. So I spent the first half of my life, well, more than half of my life, actually, depressed, anxious. I've injured myself like hundreds of times, dislocated shoulders, broken kneecaps, back pain, neck pain, eye pain, teeth pain, pretty much anything that could feel pain, I felt pain in. And in my mind too, lots of pain there. I was depressed. I hated life. I hated people. I hated everyone, even people I don't know. Anyone I saw smile, I felt ripped off. Like, how come they can smile? And if I smile, I'm just faking it. A lot of people can probably relate to that. You look at other people, and one of the things I would look at is I'd look at people who looked like they'd be in worse shape than I am, and yet they'd be walking totally comfortable. I saw. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
So
yeah, that's a really hard place to. I mean, it's a big hole to dig your way out of, right?
It is, but I started realizing that pain and psychological pain, which made my physical pain worse, quite frankly, was a message more than it was a punishment. And for 40 years, I thought it was a punishment.
Wow.
And when I realized it was not a punishment and that it was something trying to warn me, kind of like, Scott, do you drive?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you ever had a red light come on the dashboard?
Yeah. More than once.
So do you take a piece of tape and tape over it so you don't see it?
I did once.
And I bet you paid for it.
It's not a good result.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I did to my life. I had a lot of red lights on the dashboard of my life, and I just keep putting tape over them so I wouldn't see them instead of treating them as they really were, which was warnings. They were telling me something's amiss and I need to deal with it.
Right.
So I started changing my attitude towards my anxiety and my stress and my pain and my depression and all these things. And I started looking at it as, well, what if it's just a warning? I mean, not just a warning, it's a serious warning. But what if it's a warning telling me I need to become more self-aware? I need to start thinking and making connections and realizing what triggers me and what sets me off from an emotional standpoint and what sets me off from a pain standpoint. And I started learning different things about myself. And I found that by changing my thoughts and my awareness, my self awareness, I was able to take more control over my body and my mind. And the
Mm,
depression started to fade and the pain got a little bit better. And the interesting thing about pain getting a little bit better is when you're used to having pain all the time, let me rephrase that. I can't speak for anybody else but myself. When I'm used to having pain all the time, suddenly having a little less pain is a big deal. It was a
right.
really big to me. Kind of gave me hope.
I actually had
It
that happen to me about between 2 and 3 years ago, and I was doing a zip line in Panama, but it wasn't 1 zip line, it was 12. So I would zip, and then I would zip, and I would zip, and of course, that's it's fun, it's not, high impact, I didn't think, right? And when I was done, no problem, went home, went to sleep, got up the next day, couldn't walk. Almost couldn't walk. My knees were in so much pain because when I'm going, like, their torque on the knee was just, like, crazy, right? And then I'm walking down, 3 flights of stairs with my suitcase, and I twisted, I should know better than to twist anything, but I did. The biggest pop ever out of my right knee. And I thought, "I'm going to be like this guy in a cane for the rest of my life." You're walking like this, right? Used to, like, striding and walking quickly and everything else, and I was like, "Oh." And, of course, over time, it got better and better, and now I'm pretty much over it all. But at that point in time, I thought, "That was it. I'm going to be, like, one step away from a wheelchair for the next 50 years." And I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, I can't imagine, what it's like, pain is kind of like a fingerprint, at least that's how I look at it. So it's different for everybody.
Yeah,
So if you have a problem with your shoulder and I have a problem with my shoulder, it doesn't mean we experience it the same way.
right.
And when
Very
I started sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say they're very different.
Yeah. And treating other people the way you treat yourself isn't necessarily gonna help them.
Is that one of my concerns having you on was someone was gonna say, "Okay, I'm gonna try it. I've been really, really bad pain. I have fibromyalgia, I've got brain fog, and I'm gonna listen to it 3 times and there's no difference." Or, "I'm gonna listen to it for 6 months and there's no difference." Because I've my father had leukemia. He passed away about 14 years ago, had it for 10 years, and I just think if I could have had put my hands on this guy, I would have throttled him because he was one of these functional medicine, natural healing people. And the first thing he said is, "I can fix you. No problem." Well, he didn't fix him. And whatever he didn't work, right? Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean he was wrong or bad or incompetent or anything. What it meant was my dad loved scotch, and there was no way he was going to stop drinking scotch.
Yeah.
And so probably, and I'm not saying the scotch killed him, but I'm sure it was a contributing factor. So, if you don't do the system, don't expect the system to work. But this guy just said, "Oh yeah, I can fix you." And that's what I hear from, "Oh, this guy says he can fix me." My dad's skeptical, but I'll give it a try. And then
Sure.
3 weeks, a month or 2 months or 5 months or whatever it was, like no difference. And it was like, yeah, man, you're not just because it works for someone, hopefully it works for everybody, but there's no kind of guarantees. And we also don't know the dedication, right? Like I know some people that have been really, really sick. Well, Martin Patella, who's my co-host usually, was very, very sick and chronically ill for 15 or 20 years, much like yourself with the depression. And he just worked at it, worked at it, worked at it, and was so determined that he learned what he needed to learn, which in those days meant going to a library.
Yeah.
There was no Google.
You know what I
And
call the library? I call the library the paper internet.
the paper internet, that's
The
right.
paper internet.
And then and over time he managed to heal himself. And I think, having that determination and that dedication is really, and persistence is really, really important. And it's not easy to do when you're in pain.
No, the pain makes it even a little more difficult. It's been my experience that, you were saying, will something work for everyone? Like, nobody knows what I do yet, and we'll get into that probably in another show. But what I wanted to mention is that when sorry, again, I can't speak for other people, so I'll speak for myself. When I experience pain, and a lot of pain and constant pain, it's almost like there's a trigger. So if I know that this feeling, like I'm pinching my finger, so if I knew that pinching my finger was a precursor to my shoulder hurting really badly, then if I pinch my finger, it's going to set off a whole cascade of events in my brain, kind of like 3D chess, right? That's going to make me think, oh, my shoulder's about to start hurting. And then I kind of bring on my shoulder hurting because I expect it to hurt.
Right.
Fibromyalgia, in my experience, has been a situation of people. I mean, look, it's real,
Right.
and the pain is real. And you learn to expect certain things when if you are going through a reasonable period where you're not feeling like totally inundated by it, then you feel that little finger pinch that for you, whatever that is, a tweak, a pop, an ache, something that might be relatively minor, but you've learned through history that it kind of brings on the worst pain and the longer term pain, then
Right.
your expectation might be playing a role in that. And if we can do
I guess
something
we
to
should
help you.
say that beware of triggers, because we
Yeah,
will probably say a lot of things that are going to trigger you, like, no, it's not in my head, or no, it's not, it's not
it's
poking my
not in your
finger.
head though, but
No,
that's not
that's
what I'm
right.
saying, right? We're not
No,
saying
no,
it's
I
in your
know.
head. We're saying that a part, like a degree of what you're experiencing could be coming from the expectation, could be coming from the experience. You have the experience. This isn't made up. This is
Right.
real. But what if some of the pain, what if, this is all the pain, and what if this much of the pain is because you're expecting it? And look, when I expect something, I can't speak for you, but when I'm expecting something, I tense up. When I
Right.
tense up,
Particularly if it's
that makes
something
my
you
muscles
don't
hurt.
want. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that
This is
tensing can
actually
make it
really
worse.
important stuff, Maury, because in all the times that we've been talking about pain and working with the Fibromyalgia Support and Solutions group on Facebook, we've clumped it all together, right? And I think,
Yeah.
and I do this in other parts of my life, or when I'm consulting with people, is I pull it's a big problem, but then I pull this out, and I pull that out, and I pull this out, and I pull that out. All of a sudden it's 20 small problems that you can easily deal with, right? And we've never really looked at the fibromyalgia from this perspective of, what if this is your expectation? Oh, I mean, it's not the whole pain, but if you can get that expectation down, maybe that will help.
It might, and it's worth trying. And think of it
Right.
this way also. What if there is a trigger? We'll go back to my pinching of my finger. What if that is a trigger? Well, when the finger is pinched, you're not over the edge yet, but your expectation is that you will be over the edge. What if we could change your expectation? What if we could alter that just a little bit so that
Right.
instead of it going into full force pain, that
It
you're able
can.
to
It can.
redirect
We
some of
call it
that
a can.
energy somewhere else. Yeah, I
Right.
believe that's possible. I do.
Yeah. Very cool. So you got over your pain, you got over your depression,
Yeah.
and what were some of the, well, you talked a little bit about it, but was there any more to the story?
Well, when I got when I started feeling differently, and that was the real trick, because when I started feeling differently, it made me realize there was hope and I could do something about this instead of
Mhm.
just suffering and complaining to myself all the time. Like, what did I do? Who was I in a previous life that I'm being punished so badly for it now? So when I realized that there was something I could do, it made me want to help others because I thought I was the only person in pain.
Right. Oh,
I
you have
think
lots of
that's yeah, but there's a lot of people in pain. There's too many
Mhm.
people in pain. Your group is way too big, man.
Yep.
It
It's
is.
way too
It's
big,
this is
and
what
it's
I wanna
growing.
see in it, 0.
Exactly. That's our goal.
But that's the
0
thing, but I
numbers.
believe that's possible. Look, if you're alive, if you're feeling something, then maybe there's something you can do. Maybe it is a red light on the dashboard of your life, like I was talking about before.
Right.
Maybe there's something you can do, and it's trying to get you to figure out what that something is so that you can feel just a little bit better. So you realize, well, hold on a second. I've gone through years of this and I've never felt a little bit better. Now I'm feeling a little bit better. Now, when I get an attack, it's not as bad as it was. It's still not wonderful. It's still not great, but it's, a little bit better than it was the other times.
Right.
That's where the hope gets to be planted. That's, in a very, very dark room, it's very easy to see a pinprick of light. And if we can see that pinprick of light, that hope, if you will, and then expand on it by putting our attention on it, maybe we can make it a brighter life for us. Maybe we can make our experience better. And then maybe by making our experience better, we can share that with others.
Right.
And then they share with 2 people and they share with 2 people. And before you know it,
Well,
fibromyalgia is something that they talk about in the history books instead of something that most of us have to deal with.
right. So one of the uh, issues that our members bring up often, there's two actually that they bring up a lot when it comes to the gray matter. One is stress, and one is trauma. So let's talk about trauma first. So we experience a trauma. What can we do to take the charge off of it? Let me say, or deal with
So,
it.
yeah, that's a great question. So, in my experience, everything we are stimulated by trauma, joy, love, hate, anger, anxiety, whatever stimulates the brain. So, the brain creates brainwave activity. We've all seen those images, whether it's online or in books, where they have an EEG hooked up and you see all these different colors blinking on and off all the time. Those are
Right.
just randomly assigned colors to specific brainwave activity. Now, depending on the kind of activity the neurons, your brain cells are experiencing, that and the location of the brain that they're in, that creates a response, a neurochemical response, things like endorphins and hormones and neurotransmitters. And depending on the soup that's made from all those ingredients, you can feel better, you can feel good, you can feel bad, you can feel angry, you can feel upset, hateful, spiteful, fearful, whatever. But none of that gets experienced without the brain creating these specific chemicals that allow you to experience the pain or the
Mm,
pleasure. So the trick
okay.
of what I try to do with my technology is to help people alter those brain waves in a very subtle way so as to alter subtly the chemistry, which subtles subtly alters the experience. And
Right.
that is
Okay.
something you don't need it doesn't require your belief, it doesn't require you to learn a technique, it doesn't require anything except lying down or sitting with head support, because I'm basically a lazy guy, and I want the laziest possible way to feel better. And,
Right. So would that apply equally to stress?
oh,
Is
yeah,
it
as a matter of fact, what I do is, by the way, is called brainwave entrainment, and one of the biggest, things that it's attributed to helping is stress levels, and again, stress levels tense everything up. It tightens up the blood vessels, and we're not getting as much nutrition to our cells. We're not getting as much oxygen to our cells. It creates a physical, emotional stress causes physical stress. Physical stress plus emotional stress creates, it exacerbates all problems.
Right.
So that's basically what we're talking about here. We need to find it, like, it's hard to meditate for me on my own. But meditation, if you look it up online, ask AI or look it up at Google or Google Scholar, you'll see that meditation has been shown to be very beneficial for people like us, who have pain, who have anxiety, who have stress. But when I tried to meditate, I I couldn't do it.
Right.
I
I
just
can't
couldn't do it.
imagine being able to meditate when you're in a flare that's, a 10 flare. It's just like, no, not
Yeah,
gonna happen.
I don't see it happening. Certainly not easily. But if we can start doing these things like, listening to certain pulse rates and things like that over time, it helps to train the brain, or as I call it, retraining the brain to have a different reaction. And if
Right.
you can change that reaction, again, then you're subtly changing the chemistry your brain creates, and that changes your experience. At least that's my theory, and that seems to bear out with a lot of the people that I deal with. And I can tell you from my own situation, it helps massively. I listen to a recording every night when I go to sleep and at least one during the day. So when you find
Cool.
something that works for you, you gotta just stick with it. You gotta do it and do it and do it. And even if it doesn't seem to be helping in the beginning, if you've got that little nudge in your brain saying, at least while I'm doing this, I'm enjoying it, or there's something driving me saying I should be listening to this. A lifetime of pain, a lifetime of this, a lifetime of that isn't going to disappear like that. I mean, it would be nice if we could make it
Right.
disappear like.
That would be the magic trick.
Yeah, I'm not a magician. So,
So I'm gonna bring up, your website, and let's talk a little bit about the technology and the sort of things that happen when you train your brain to transform your life.
so here's what basically happens. There's a lot of different technologies and techniques involved. So it would be like a 17, 18-hour conversation just to go through all the techniques. But essentially, basically, there's a feature of your brain called the frequency following response. So if you've ever noticed yourself listening to music you like, for instance, and you're kind of bopping your head a little bit or tapping your toes or, just swaying a little bit with the music, that is what's happening. You're responding to the frequency or the beat pattern of the music that you're listening to. Your neurons, your brain cells react the same way. So what we do is we ask you to put on, do I have handy? Of course I don't have handy, but an ordinary pair of stereo headphones is all you really need. Nothing expensive. The ones I use when I use stereo headphones literally cost me, I think, 10 or $12. That was it. You don't need anything high definition or high fidelity or any of that kind of stuff. Just ordinary stereo headphones. Put them on and you hear a pulse beat. You hear "Bup, bup, 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 bup." It almost sounds like a kind of a soft, soothing MRI. If anyone's ever had an MRI, they'd know what I mean. MRIs are loud and powerful and annoying, but this is very soft, very tender. And what happens is it's all about vibrations. So you think you hear something, you don't. It's your brain interpreting vibration. So when we pulse a tone on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, the neuron within 6 minutes on average will start to follow that frequency. That means we're helping it to get into a different state, which means different chemistry is produced, which means you get a different experience. Now, on average, it takes the average person about 6 minutes to begin to entrain to a frequency. A lifetime of an experience is not likely to go away just because you listen once, but you may notice something. I can't even tell you what because everybody's different and everybody's their own guru, but they may notice something. But with regular listening, the brain starts getting trained in how to react and act differently and to produce different types of chemistry. So, because of the frequency following response, the neurons start pulsing the way the beat is. So, bump, 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 bump. They start producing the appropriate chemistry that changes how we feel, how we act, how we perceive what's going on around us. In a sense, it's a little bright light in a dark room. And that's the basic benefit. Now, you also hear a shh. kind of sound, almost like white noise. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. That's actually a series of frequencies overlaid on top of each other, most of which are there to act like a mask. So they're there to stop you from hearing other noises that might impose on the entrainment event, the ba 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 sound. But some of those frequencies I put in because I believe, and I don't have scientific evidence backing this, but this is my belief through experience, that they hyperactivate different regions of your brain, making them more susceptible, more open to the tones. Some of the work has spoken word in it as well. But the bottom line is it's about influencing in a beneficial way your brainwave activity, the way you think, the way you interpret, the way you experience things. And with time, I have found with, most of my clients and myself that the more I use it, the more benefit I get. I get more creative. So, as an example, you may not get pain relief from listening to these recordings, but you may get inspiration to research in a certain direction that gives you access to something, information, an exercise, whatever, that actually does give you relief. Creativity can be expanded, intuition, innovation. Your brain is the CPU, the central processing unit of your life. If it doesn't pass through your brain, you don't know it's there. So everything you're aware of, even your pain, is because it's passing through your brain. Your brain is creating the chemistry, the neural code, if you will, that allows you to experience everything. Having that as an understanding allows you to move forward and allows you to expand your experience. Just like anything else, if we understand the dynamic, we can use that to our benefit. If we're fearful and we don't understand, we don't generally get a benefit from that.
Right. No, that's really amazing. So train your brain, transform your life. We've put the link in the comments below and in the description. Um, and Maury, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have you on again and again and again, and we're going to dive deeper and deeper. But I think as an introduction to you and to the work that you do, this has been excellent. I really want to thank you.
It's been my absolute pleasure. And you know what? We look forward to questions. You folks know what you need more than any of us could possibly imagine. And feel free to ask your questions, any question at all, because we want to enlighten you. We want to make life better for you. And life can be better for you. I honestly believe that the pain is a notice. It's not a punishment.
Yeah,
It's be
absolutely agree.
aware. Yeah.
And we're going to give you a little bit of hope. And hopefully that small little flame turns into a huge bonfire and to a massive wildfire that keeps you warm and doesn't burn down your house. Probably not the best analogy I've ever come up with. So
Humor is good, though. Humor is very good.
I've noticed the last few weeks that I've been reading sad and disturbing news, and I've been watching comedians on YouTube, balancing the two
Smart.
parts. Yeah. So thanks for joining us, Maury. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you and love you, and we'll see you again soon. This has been the Life Enthusiast Health Shots, restoring vitality to you and the planet. See you next time.
Hey! Hey!